Hello everyone! Today's video is gonna be a sum up of what I enjoyed the most about the Texas Chain Saw Massacre and what I didn't. Please keep in mind that most of what I'm gonna say is purely based on my first experience of the game, limited by how much I could play during the test, so it could be subject to change in future. Let's start with what I liked. The first thing that comes to my mind is Leatherface. Being the main character of the game, it was really important for the devs to make him as good as possible, and I have to say that every time I got the chance to play as him, I could really feel the effort put into making him. Leatherface is probably the best designed character in the game. Gameplay-wise, he is played as a strong, unstoppable entity whose only downside is the lack of agility. Victims will have to crawl through walls and openings to escape his might. And I like that they would rather do that than face him directly, which usually doesn't happen when they cope with the other family members. He kinda reminded me of when I played Darth Vader in Star Wars Battlefront. In a way, he gave me the same feeling, like this very strong entity who makes everyone else run in fear, but at the same time, Leatherface doesn't ever feel OP or too oppressive, and I think it's quite hard to achieve that, to have such a threatening character in the game without making him unfun to face. So yeah, 10 out of 10, Leatherface character design. I think they couldn't have done it better, honestly. Another thing that I really enjoyed are the maps. In the test, we could actually try out only 2 maps, but I think the design of the maps were amazing. I heard many people complaining that they were like a maze, that they were having a hard time navigating around those maps. But I think that only shows how good the maps are, because maps shouldn't be easy to navigate at first when you don't know them. Only the most simple and basic ones can be so easily learned. To give an example of bad map design, I immediately think of Dead by Daylight maps. In particular, the map introduced with the Saw chapter, the game. That one is basically just a huge cube, made by big rooms that compose it. And it's such a lazy design for a map, because it's extremely basic and it is the most immediate picture for a building that comes up to our mind. That is because our brain tends to picture stuff in a very geometric way. For example, if you were to ask a kid to draw their house, they would probably draw a square. And if you ask them to add some windows, they would probably draw them as squares as well. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre maps are very intricate, so I think that's a very good thing. Another thing that I really enjoyed is the variety of killers. Like, I really enjoy that every family member has its own skills and stats. Like, the cook, for example, has very little stamina, but he has a good damage output. While the hitchhiker has a great stamina, but he basically deals no damage. And I really enjoy that. Like, I really enjoy that the killers are very different from one another. And I love also that some killers can interact with some objects and others can't. For example, Leatherface cannot climb stairs. He cannot go through walls. But at the same time, he has the biggest damage output. So if he gets you in the open, you're pretty much dead. Another very important thing is the gameplay. I think the gameplay is very fun. Unfortunately, I cannot express myself too much about this, because the gameplay experience really changes with time and with how good other players get. Because after all, this is a PvP game, it's only a PvP game, so the gameplay experience is gonna be heavily impacted by the other players you get in both your team or as opponents. My first impressions are surely good, and I think it looks quite promising. Okay, now I'm gonna talk a bit about the things that could be a downside. So the first thing is the importance of comms. Communication, especially if you want to play family, having a microphone is mandatory. Like, it's really important, because you will not be able to catch a survivor by yourself without the help of the other family members. I know that most of you probably have seen some early gameplays of the game, and I'm sure you have seen a lot of family members dealing with victims in a 1v1 situation, like where they were able to catch them, but that happened just because the victims were very inexperienced and fresh to the game, not because that is actually what is supposed to happen. As soon as you learn the maps and you learn where to run, you are probably never gonna get caught by a single family member. The only way you will get caught is if there are two of them. So if you are playing family, you will need to cooperate with your teammates to be able to catch the victims. So if you are a shy person like me, because to be fair I'm quite shy, or if you just prefer not to use a microphone when you play, you will probably want to stick with playing as victim, because victims don't really need comms that much. When playing as victim, you will be able to do any objective by yourself if you want to, and that can't be said for family. As family, once again, we need other teammates to catch victims, which are basically their objectives. So having a microphone as victim will come in handy mostly to warn your teammates of the exit you're gonna open and when, but that's pretty much it. As in the game, it seems like you can't really offer an immediate help to other victims, so it's not like in Dead by Daylight, where you can help your teammates with body blocks, flashlight saves, pallet stuns and all that funny stuff. So if you're planning on not to use a microphone, you're gonna miss out quite a lot from this game. Another thing is premades. Like, we don't know yet if people will be able to play with friends, but I'm assuming they will. So I really hope that premades are not gonna destroy the game on both sides. But this one is most of a concern than an actual downside. Coming from Dead by Daylight, I know how impactful premades can be on the gameplay of a PvP game, so we will see how things will turn out when the game fully releases. One last thing I don't really enjoy it is that knowing the map does basically 80% of the job. Like, I already said that in my previous games, and it's really like that, especially as a victim. If you think about Dead by Daylight, for example, survivors have a much bigger learning curve. They need to learn how to loop, how to counter killer powers and abilities, and on top of that, there is map knowledge and game sense. So to be fair, there is way more depth in the gameplay of DBD than there is in the Texas Chain Saw Massacres one. Because in this game, when interacting with the killer, as a victim, you can basically only run. And you are gonna be more efficient at doing that if you are gonna know the map. The better you know the map, and the stronger you will be as a victim. It's all about that. There ain't anything else about it. And this is quite concerning, because people, like, I could already see some people that in a couple of days had fully experience of the map, had full knowledge of the maps. So it's quite concerning to imagine how the game will be just 1 month after the release. Alright, so those were the things that, in my opinion, could be considered as major issues for the game, as they are part of the core game experience and cannot really be changed. Now I'm gonna talk about some minor things that could be considered balance issues and that could be easily fixed by a future patch. So first of all, iframes. In my opinion, victims have way too much iframes. So basically every animation they do gives them iframes. And if you don't know what iframes are basically invincibility frames. So basically that means that they cannot be hit by the family members. I think that's a bit rough. Like I will show you now some clips where you can see that because of the iframes they can never be hit in loops and stuff. So I think they should have it like they do in Dead by Daylight. So basically I'm talking about how survivors get iframes during a vault of pallets and windows. Like, you know, basically the first half of the animation they can get hit by the killer, but after they reach the second half of the animation they cannot be hit. So I think it should work that way in this game too. Second thing, it's about objectives. Objectives feel way too easy to complete. As soon as you have a very basic knowledge of the game. Some exits can be opened with ease and require only a few steps. It all boils down to moving from one point to another to get things done. You will want to go from the spawn point to, let's call it point B, and from B to C, and you will have an exit open. It is really that simple. Besides, the spawn point of most objectives are mostly the same, and they can easily be learned after a few games. So I think objectives should work a bit more like in Friday the 13th, where they were way more randomized, so that survivors will take more time looking for them instead of just rushing. This point is tied to my previous one, where I say that knowing the map in this game does most of the job. If the objectives won't be randomized better, games will go very fast, very quick, when the game comes out. And don't be fooled into thinking that it's gonna get bad only after some time, when people actually become very good at the game, because it was already noticeable during the test. Because yes, understanding how to get objectives done quick is really that simple. So third point is that making noise is too forgiving, in my opinion. During the test we could already see many victims ignoring the sound mechanics entirely. And that's because family members cannot really hear them or see them. Even if, when playing as victim, you see this big red glowing aura coming out from the objects you're using, family members will not be notified unless they are in extremely close range. So, I don't know, maybe I think there should be more punishment to it, and a good way to do that would be probably giving an aura reveal, so basically Wallach to the family member if you actually do a lot of noise, like so that victims are kind of forced to do things more slowly. So this would also help with all the other previous points, that the game will go very fast once people know the maps. Another point is the use of wells. Victims can literally abuse wells. Like they have basically zero punishment, because even if they drop dead after they jump, they can easily recover, and I'm not really sure, to be fair, about how many times they can recover, but I think that as long as they heal, so they get the healing bottles spread out in the map, like as long as they use them, they're basically immortal, like they can never really bleed out, right? So they can only die if you hit them, but they will never basically bleed out after jumping off a well. So there is no real punishment to wells. I think a possible way to fix them would be making them work like Friday the 13th's windows. In that game, Jason could break the windows around the map so that Counselor had a limited amount of use for them before dying, as every time they go through a broken window, they would lose a bit of health. In a way, wells already work like that, because using them injures the victims a bit. But the big difference from Friday the 13th's windows is that they are not remotely as lethal, as victims can survive multiple falls as long as they kept healing. And last thing is the aura of objectives. Like, I don't know why victims get aura reveal of like if things weren't easy enough to do, they also get a aura reveal of their objectives. Like if you grab a valve, for example, you see the machine where you need to attach it. But I'm not sure about this because it could be a perk. Like during the test there were perks actually, but we couldn't change them. So it could be a perk. If it is a perk, then I mean, fair enough, because you're gonna take away a slot for maybe something else. So, but if it's a default thing, I don't think it should really be in the game. So that's about it. That's pretty much everything I had to say about the game. Overall, I think it's very enjoyable, and I can't wait to actually play it the day it releases. But I'm afraid about the long-term longevity of the game. Like how is it gonna be after some months? I'm a bit concerned because I really think they need to work a bit more on the balance of all of those things that I just said. That being said, I want to thank you very much for following me through this little journey. Now, getting a bit off topic, I'm not sure about when I'm gonna upload new videos, because I realized that I cannot be consistent, like I just can't. So probably in this channel you will always see me uploading every now and then when I kinda feel like doing it. And yeah, so maybe when the next killer for the BD comes out, but I have already seen something, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of the next chapter, so I don't know. Anyways, all I can say is just subscribe so that you can see the next time I upload a video, and yeah, see you next time, whenever it will be. Alright? Bye bye!